Welcome to News Express. In every election cycle, Nigerian politics return to the same central promise, which is renewal, new faces, new coalition, new slogans, and familiar assurances that this time will be different. Yet, as 2027 approaches, a more uncomfortable question is beginning to dominate public conversation. Not who will win, but whether any of the leading political actors can genuinely be trusted to govern differently from those before them. It is a question rooted less in cynicism for its own sake and more in accumulated experience. Years of shifting party loyalties, unresolved corruption allegations, policy reversals, and political reinventions that has blurred the line between strategy and sincerity. At the heart of this integrity crisis is a political culture where defection is a routine and ideological consistency is rare. Nigeria's major political figures have, over time, moved across party lines with increasing frequency, often without substantial explanation beyond broad references to national interests or internal disagreements. In this environment, political identity becomes flexible, shaped more by opportunity than conviction. For voters, this creates a persistent dilemma. If alliances can shift so easily, what anchors belief in long-term commitment to public service promises? This uncertainty is compounded by the nature of party structures themselves. The major political parties, ranging from the ruling All Progressive Congress to the People's Democratic Party, alongside emerging platforms such as the Labour Party and newer coalitions, often function less as ideological institutions and more as electoral alliances. Their internal cohesion is frequently tested by factional disputes, leadership struggles, and competing regional interests. When parties lack stable ideological foundations, candidates are evaluated less on policy consistency and more on personal appeal, reputation, and perceived elasticity. As a result, trust becomes personalized rather than institutional. Voters are increasingly forced to rely on individual perceptions of candidates rather than party manifestos or ideological platforms. This dynamic evaluates the importance of personal history, public conduct, and perceived authenticity. Yet, even these markers are not always stable in Nigerian politics, where reinvention is a common feature of political survival. The 2023 election cycle already demonstrated the strengths and limits of personality-driven politics. Figures such as Peter Obi gained significant momentum by positioning themselves as alternatives to established political structures, while others lean heavily on organizational machinery and incumbent advantages. However, even in that cycle, post-election developments, including legal disputes, internal party tensions, and shifting alliances, reinforce the idea that electoral enthusiasm does not always translate into institutional stability. Looking ahead to 2027, the field appears even more fragmented. Multiple political alignments are forming across traditional party boundaries, with new coalitions attempting to position themselves as credible alternatives. Yet, within these formations, questions persist about internal coherence, leadership consistency, and long-term vision. When alliances are assembled quickly, often in response to electoral timing rather than ideological alignment, the durability of such structures becomes uncertain. This is where the integrity question becomes more than personal. It becomes systemic. In a political environment where institutions are weak and party ideology is fluid, the burden of trust shifts heavily onto individual candidates. But these candidates themselves operate within a system that rewards flexibility over consistency. Politicians are often incentivized to adapt narratives depending on audience, region, or political context, making it difficult for voters to identify stable policy positions over time. Corruption perceptions also play a central role in shaping public trust. While legal processes continue to address allegations against various political figures, the broader public discourse is often shaped by perception rather than adjudication. Accusations, investigations, and political counterclaims circulate widely, and even when resolved legally, they frequently leave behind reputational reside. In such an environment, trust becomes fragile, easily influenced by media framing, partisan interpretation, and historical memory. Beyond individual reputations, governance outcomes themselves feed into the integrity debate. Economic hardship, inflationary pressures, unemployment, and infrastructural deficits have all contributed to a general sense of disillusionment among many Nigerians. When daily life experience does not reflect political promises, skepticism towards leadership intensifies. This creates a feedback loop where distrust in governance reinforces cynicism about future candidates, regardless of their backgrounds. Security challenges further complicate the picture. Persistent insecurity in various regions, alongside debates over governance response effectively, has deepened questions about state capacity. For many citizens, trust is not only about honesty but also about competence, the ability to deliver safety, stability, and basic services. When these expectations are unmet over time, confidence in political leadership erodes across the board. Yet, despite this widespread skepticism, Nigerian politics continue to produce high levels of electoral engagement. Voter turnout fluctuates, but political interest remains strong, especially during election cycles. This paradox deep distrust alongside persistent participation reflects the complexity of democratic engagement in a system where citizens may distrust actors but still believe in the importance of choosing among them. It is also important to recognize that integrity in politics is not a binary condition. It is not simply a matter of trustworthy versus untrustworthy candidates. Rather, it exists on a spectrum shaped by competing pressures, party demands, electoral incentives, institutional constraints, and personal ambitions. Many political actors operate within systems that both enable and restrict their choices, making accountability a shared responsibility between individuals and institutions. As 2027 approaches, the integrity question is likely to become more pronounced, not less. Campaigns will intensify, alliances will shift, and narratives will compete for public attention. Candidates will attempt to position themselves as credible reformers, experienced managers, or agents of change. Voters, in turn, will be tasked with evaluating not only promises but histories, not only rhetoric but records. Ultimately, the question of trust in Nigerian politics may not have a definitive answer. It may instead reflect a broader democratic tension, the gap between aspiration and experience, the gap between political possibility and institutional reality. Whether any candidate can fully resolve that gap in 2027 remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that trust will not be granted easily. It will have to be earned repeatedly, tested continuously, and sustained beyond election cycles. And in a political environment shaped by shifting loyalties and evolving alliances, that may be the most demanding requirement of all. For more updates and in-depth analysis, stay with us on News Express. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am Cassie Tony, and many thanks for watching.